Hey, it's Susan Henry here, and I'm going to lead you through your assignment that you turn in to be your competency. So part of your competency, it's twofold: your learning task notebook, which you should upload in your Canvas course, and also the lesson plan assignment showing that you're ready for your first 2 weeks of instruction in the classroom. So Unit 1, weeks 1 and 2 is what you'll be doing, and this film is for grades 2 through 5. So let's just review some directions that you'll need to know. The example slides that I'm using here are in the middle. They're third grade. Third grade is closest to second grade, and it has the same components as fourth and fifth grade. You watch the films, you stop the film, and then you fill in your lesson plan along the way, thinking and doing. You will then upload the lesson plan, like I said before. So let's just start with lesson 1, which would be also like a day 1, and that's the way it's done in your teacher textbook. Is everything is labeled by lesson. So here we go. The very first thing that you need to remember is the first item that you will do and students will do is this whole thing around their theme or their essential question. And so as you go into your teacher's manual, there are some pieces there that you will see in the Build Knowledge tab. And so you'll be looking, the very first part is how to build knowledge. And when you look in there, you'll be looking at that essential question. The other thing that you'll need to know is that students have something that is in their reading, writing companion, and that they will be filling out as well. So there you'll be looking at building their knowledge and their vocabulary around that essential question. There is lots of collaborative talk, and there is also a place for kids to set their goals for those 10 days of instruction. It's essential for you to make sure that the graphic organizer is used, and like I said before, it's the softback book that the kids will use to be able to find that graphic organizer. And here you will be modeling, because it's the first day, so you'll be building that same graphic organizer either on a chart paper of your own or in a space that you've dedicated in your room, and talking about that component. As you build knowledge, make sure you use the collaborative conversations, and also if you need to know how to do those collaborative conversations, there are 2 places that you can do that. One is in the Instructional Routines Handbook. Looks like this here. You can also download it. It's in the downloadables. If you are not in your school and you want to plan, go ahead and you can download and look at this routine piece. There's also a place in the map called Structured Classroom Discussion, and you can find that in the manuals.canyonsdistrict.org, and you can search Structured Classroom Discussion to find this page. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video right here and look here under the Build Knowledge piece in the Lesson 1. And as you look at that, you'll be planning these pieces here marked in orange. What is the essential question? Think about that. Will you decide to have your students watch the video, which is also on the page right here? So there are some digital components there where you discuss the concept. You saw that in the digital tab where you can access those items. If you want to look at the instructional routine for how to do a collaborative conversation, if you need support, and also make sure that you're planning how they're going to do their collaborative conversation, that is marked here and here on that page. You'll also want to decide in your plan, am I going to have up a big anchor piece? When I taught this, I decided to print this page right here with the essential question, and I had that up in the room for the 10 days that I was instructing. And that's what several of the other specialists decided to do. You also would want to have a little dedicated space and think through. So you can write that up in your lesson plan and decide how you want to do that. So take a pause now and go ahead and write that in your lesson plan. The next part that you'll plan is the interactive read aloud. Remember, this is the I do portion of the day, and so this right here is where students are using their listening comprehension, and they're also going to be working to summarize the text. So one of the things that will be on this page will be how to build an anchor chart around what kind of text or genre that is being taught here. So in third grade through fifth grade, your interactive read aloud looks like this. In second grade, you have the interactive read aloud is actually cards where you're showing pictures to the students, and then there is text on the back for you to utilize. And those interactive cards are referenced in your teacher manual. When you plan the interactive read aloud, you'll want to consider these things. Make sure that you preview the genre. Make sure that you have a way for students to read and respond, and that you'll be doing a summary. When I planned my interactive read aloud, I did a technique called sticky note planning. And here I have written my learning intention and success criteria. I've also written things in here in my sticky notes of what I want to remember so that I took notes. I also, if I wanted to add or incorporate any sentence frames, I put that also in the text and had that all put together for myself. I want to make sure that I use the metacognition for those first, second, and possibly third reads right here where they have those talking bubbles, and I made that plan for that. So go ahead and pause the video right now and make your plan for the interactive read aloud. So the next portion of lesson 1 is the shared read. So you've set the purpose and done a think aloud, and now you're ready to go launch into what students will do with the text. This has the close reading routine, and if you need to know more about the close reading routine, remember you can find that in the Instructional Routines Handbook. You can also find it in our map under manuals.canyonsdistrict.org, where CSD has outlined what close reading is. The first thing you're going to do is set a purpose, and you're setting a purpose for the first read, so you'll be focusing on the read prompts for now, and then in your lesson 2 you'll be focusing on the reread prompts. So reread is where students then learn the vocabulary. If you believe that your clientele in your school setting needs to know vocabulary prior, notice that it says here, consider pre-teaching vocabulary to some students. So that can be switched. You can make that choice. The reason that they do the vocabulary later is to let kids have access to some context before you launch into the vocabulary. And context sometimes will set up how students will view and look at the vocabulary. For instance, if the word is light, they don't know if the context is going to be light, like lightweight, or if it means light, like to turn on a light bulb. If you've already read the text and they're talking about things that have weight, they know that in the context that the word light will be highlighted there, and that will help them to learn the word. And that's the reason for the vocabulary coming next. So that's where you can make a critical decision. So in the shared read, the things that you'll be doing, here is your vocabulary that's highlighted. You can teach it incidentally, prior or after. You can do it's highlighted for that second read. Here you have the ask and answer questions. The topic or the skill that's being taught is chronology for this one. So on here you will teach and model, you'll set the learning goals, you're going to set the purpose, and do the read read prompts. And you're going to identify in your success criteria any of those identified success assessed skills, identify any assessed skills. As you identify what your students need, you can go through here and see where your must-dos are and your may-dos. And so you're going to be making those choices. I made those choices when I taught this for a third grade classroom. I had knowledge of third graders as I taught third grade extensively for a while when I was in the classroom. And so because of that and knowing their developmental process and talking with their teacher, I knew a little bit about where they were coming from and where I would have to scaffold their learning. And so I used those prompts and planned with my sticky notes. Here I thought about what was going to be difficult for them with the access complex text to choose my must-dos and may-dos. And then the vocabulary here, those highlighted words are being done in the reread portion or day 2, and you can see that they connect to the highlighted words that were in the text. That day 2 or lesson 2 also has those visual vocabulary cards that are there for you. Here it shows what one of those cards looks like and what that vocabulary looks like. You can also see those in the online portal. There's also a place for students to, in the reread portion, to highlight and look at things like compound words, and that's a choice that you can make. So looking at a skill inside of the text. And a place for students to check in for the day on that formative assessment. So I want you now to stop and pause and think about this. How will I set up my shared read on lesson 1? When am I going to teach my vocabulary? Will it be on lesson 1 or will it be in lesson 2? What vocabulary strategy and how will I use? And what is my formative assessment? Am I going to use some of the digital components? Am I going to use the cards that come with the teacher manuals, those ancillary materials? Where will my vocabulary fit? Also, looking back, which of those prompts, those questions will I be asking? What are going to be my must-dos and my may-dos for students, and how will I react? So in other words, I'm going to have teacher agility. If I'm here and then I see they can go further, will I go here? Or am I going to do this first, then this, then this? Those are those things that I get to make those decisions and really plan out my lesson for the students that I have. So go ahead and pause the video and make your plan for lesson 1 and decide what you're going to take from lesson 2 on vocabulary, or if you're going to leave that for day 2.